Welcome to today's Explainer. Grab your stethoscopes because we are opening up the patient file on a truly fascinating longitudinal veterinary case study today. We're going to be examining the biological timeline of our feline patient, who is simply identified in the literature as the orange cat. Now, using clinical records provided by the Evo Data research team, we're getting a super rare macroscopic look at feline development. But what's absolutely wild is this highly unusual thermal event that basically defines the entire dataset. Let's start the evaluation, shall we?
Phase 1. Intake and Subject Profile.
Okay, 18. I really want to highlight the specific number right out of the gate. In veterinary science, tracking a feline patient consistently for 18 years, that is a massive clinical feat. It means researchers have successfully mapped this specific orange cat's environmental interactions well into its advanced geriatric stage, which gives us an incredibly robust temporal baseline to work from. Let's move over to the timeline and see exactly how this builds our clinical picture. This biological timeline maps our patient's progress right from birth, so neonatal intake at 0 years, straight through the midlife physiological monitoring phase around year 9, and finally to the geriatric study conclusion at year 18. This structure is fantastic because it gives us a complete macroscopic view of feline development. It assures us that the data we're about to review isn't just a momentary snapshot, but a deeply documented finding drawn from an entire lifespan of observation. Phase 2, acute environmental observations. So, across that entire 18-year lifespan, the documentation zeroes in on one singular environmental anomaly. We're talking about a sudden, hyper-focused deviation in the veterinary chart. This is a symptom significant enough to literally eclipse decades of standard feline developmental milestones. Look at the precise clinical transcription of this anomaly. The record explicitly states, heat, 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 heat up here. The practitioner didn't just note a mild temperature preference, right? This rapid, six-fold repetition indicates an intense, pulsating need for thermoregulation. And it's coupled with a highly localized anatomical position, which is just clinically noted as up here. If we analyze the diagnostic data, the sheer weight of this event is honestly undeniable. Just look at this breakdown. Over a third of the entire reporting bandwidth, 6 out of 17 words, is purely dedicated to identifying this acute thermal anomaly. When a study dedicates this much focus to a single symptom, well, we have to treat it as the defining pathology of the case. Let's establish our clinical definitions. Here, heat represents an acute, repeatedly documented elevation in localized temperature. Whether the orange cat was experiencing a physiological, biological fever or demonstrating extreme radiant heat-seeking behavior, like aggressively interacting with a sunbeam or hugging a radiator, the thermal impact on our patient was absolutely profound. But crucially, this thermal event wasn't systemic. It wasn't a generalized full-body fever. The clinical notation up here gives us a really distinct differential diagnosis. It essentially rules out systemic hyperthermia in favor of a strictly localized phenomenon. The heat was targeted and geographically restricted, literally up here.
Phase 3. Prognosis and Continuing Education.
Moving into the follow-up protocol, the researchers lay out a very clear 3-step observation plan for us. Step 1 requires the reviewer to acknowledge the case, which they formally logged as "thanks for watching." Step 2 is a mandate to subscribe, basically enlisting you into an ongoing registry. And finally, Step 3 prescribes continuing education, directing us to consume more cat evolution videos.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that clinical responsibility doesn't just magically stop at year 18. By mandating acknowledgement, subscription, and further education, the researchers are signaling something big. This localized thermal anomaly might not just be a quirk of one geriatric orange cat, but a vital data point in the broader evolutionary biology of the entire species. This is ongoing preventative care and monitoring at a massive macroscopic scale.
Which leaves us with this final lingering inquiry on our patient's chart. What exactly does this localized thermal phenomenon mean for the future of orange cat evolution? Are we witnessing a singular behavioral quirk? Or are we looking at the dawn of a completely new evolutionary trait in feline thermodynamics? The patient file remains open, and the ongoing evolution of the orange cat definitely demands our continued observation.